Remember when we were asked to go to the streets for maandamano to be able to bring the cost of living down by the oppressive government of the day? Remember that? Of course, cost of living has gone significantly down since the opposition and the government decided to sit down and tackle the issues that we were currently facing. It's amazing how much our leaders care about us and even how much they think about us. Now, recently, the National Dialogue Committee, called NADCO, co-chaired by the National Assembly Leader of Majority Kimani Ichung'wah and the Azimio la Umoja Kalonzo Musyoka, announced that it had finally adopted a framework that will guide the talks, signaling a non-contested approach to the issues that were at hand. And these are the people that are doing this. So on the Kenya Kwanza side, of course, led by Kimani Ichung'wah, who's the leader of the delegation or a core leader. And then we have Governor Cecily Mbarire, who's the deputy leader, and Senate Majority Leader, Senator Aaron Cheruiyot, Honorable Hassan Omar Hassan, and Bungoma County Woman Member of Parliament, Catherine Wambilianga. On the side of Azimio, you have, of course, the former Vice President, Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, who's the delegation leader. They're both co-chairs with Ichung'wah. Then the National Assembly Leader of Minority, Opiyo Wandayi, who's the deputy leader. Then Honorable Amina Mnyazi, Eugene Wamalwa, and Senator Okongo Mogeni. These are the 10 people on that committee. Among other things, the committee has set up to talk about these 5 things. The first is outstanding constitutional matters. The second is electoral justice. The third is entrenching funds into the constitution, establishing the office of the official opposition and the prime cabinet secretary. And then they're going to talk about the law of multi-party democracy and keeping political parties free. In summary, 10 people are sitting at Bomas working on changing the constitution first to suit themselves. In order to achieve this so noble task that they have a budget, and this budget is 106 million shillings for the Bomas talks. So I want to give you a rundown of how they are going to spend this money. Now, the funding of the Bomas talks, organized by the 10-member negotiation team appointed by Ruto and Odinga, has finally been revealed. But this has not been easy to find. So the budget allocation is 106 million for team allowances and planned retreats in Naivasha and in Mombasa. And of course, they're still doing talks at Bomas. The breakdown includes 10 million for document translation and 15 million for the publication of 1,000 copies of materials. Which materials? I don't know. An additional 9.7 million is earmarked for contingencies, just emergencies here and there. Then the co-chairs of the National Dialogue Committee, Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka and National Assembly Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah, are entitled to 50,000 shillings allowance per sitting. Then, documents reveal that both Musyoka and Ichung'wah are expected to attend a total of 20 sittings, comprising 15 sessions at Bomas of Kenya, 3 in Naivasha during report writing, and 2 in Mombasa for the adoption of the final document to be submitted to Parliament. So this is what that means. Kimani Ichung'wah, Kalonzo Musyoka, out of their 106 million, they are just top of bat. They are going to each earn $1 million bob, just for the time that they are spending, the 20 sessions that they are spending. And then the remaining 8 members of the team are slated to receive 40,000 each in allowances per sitting. These 8 members will also attend a total of 20 sittings. So 800K each. Each member of the 8-person technical team will get 25,000 shillings per sitting for the 41 scheduled meetings. That means each of them will be getting 1,025,000 per member. This equates to 8.2 million for the technical crew as a whole. So before we even go too far, 2 million plus 800,000 each times 8, 6.4, that gives you close to 10 million bob just on allowances. Then the talks to settle the 2022 presidential election dispute, which has not yet been resolved by the biggest court of the land, will now be sat for another 60 days, and they may extend depending on parliamentary approval. And the 20 members of the Secretariat will each be entitled to 15,000 per sitting for 41 sessions. So every single time you see them sit, just know there is some money going into people's pockets. 12.3 million is slated for the Secretariat. Furthermore, 6 security officers accompanying the team will each receive 2,500 per day in allowances. Now, let's go back a bit. Everyone, so 50,000 for the top 2, 40,000 for the other 8 politicians, 25,000 each for the technical team, 15,000 each for the Secretariat, and then for the people that are guarding them, 2,500. Because why not? So this budget was adopted on September 11th, following a break in the National Dialogue Committee sessions to participate in the Africa Climate Summit that was held here in Nairobi. Then the discussions between Musyoka, Ishungwa, Opio, and Hassan with the National Assembly Speaker, Moses Wetangula, began on September 13th. And the reason for these talks that they were having with Wetangula was supposed to be able to seek financial support from the Parliamentary Service Commission, because without this, nothing is moving. So while it remains unconfirmed whether the PSC has allocated or even disbursed the funds for the talks, it's very clear. Your money as a taxpayer is being channeled into the Bomas negotiations. Now, before we go too far, understand this. They had said no taxpayer money would be used for these talks, but clearly they are being used, or they will be used, because we are not yet sure whether they have gotten that money already. But this is even worse. So the National Assembly and the Senate have already passed a motion to formally establish this ongoing talk. So this committee is already constituted. And then select non-governmental organizations are also contributing to the negotiation. Read here, the United States. So one NGO has said they will reportedly cover the expenses for the Bomas conference facilities. Not an issue here. The issue is a significant portion of the budget, totaling 4.6 million, has been allocated to the Bomas of Kenya for conference facilities and catering, even though someone else is saying they're already sorting the bill. Then the technical team is scheduled to convene in Naivasha from October 10th to 14th for the analysis of stakeholder submissions, incurring an expenditure of another 8.9 million shillings. Besides allowances for various teams, ground support will also amount to 1.35 million. Half-board accommodation as well for the 38-member team will cost 4.56 million at 30,000 per member for 4 days. The entire team, comprising the National Dialogue Committee, the technical teams, and the Secretariat, will then hold another retreat in Naivasha from October 17 to 21 so that they can write the report, in a place where they can think straight, with associated costs estimated at another 11.4 million. During this phase, transport will cost 2.1 million, while accommodation will cost 4.8 million. I'm just mentioning millions here, and it feels like, just coins. Finally, the National Dialogue Committee is scheduled to convene then in Mombasa from October 24th to the 27th so that they can adopt the report that they wrote in Naivasha. The event will involve members from this committee, the technical teams, the secretariat, of course, and security. And the team plans to spend 1.2 million on air tickets for 40 members, while ground transport will cost another 1.68 million, and accommodation for going to Mombasa for 3 days, 3.6 million, so that we can ratify this report. And then additional costs include advertising, with the document indicating that the team will spend 2.4 million in placing advertisements in 2 leading newspapers on September 1st, primarily to invite members for public participation. These financial details appear contradictory to what Ishungwa had promised earlier, stating they're going to find their own funds. It's not taxpayer funds that will be used. And yes, the story of our government saying one thing and then doing another continues. This whole document is about how much money they will spend and not thinking of the fact that their work is supposed to be minimizing the cost of living for us as Kenyans. They're actually going to spend 106 million just so that someone can get an office and they will be getting a salary. And how about you? How about me? How about the people who have nothing to eat? How is the Constitution going to help them?